Hi, it's Carrie from Classic Cottage Art and Antiques in Bowling Green, Virginia, and welcome to my YouTube channel, Creating at Classic Cottage. Today, I'm going to transform this plain glass vase and this beat up silver plate, old, can't get it clean, into something beautiful. Come on, let's get started. Okay, so before I get a bunch of comments about ruining beautiful silver plate, let me explain. This is beat up. It's pretty much beyond help without being expensively re-silvered. It's also, I've cleaned it with Dixie Belle's White Lightning and a Scotch-Brite pad, and this is as far as it would go. Even if I used any kind of tarnish remover or anything like that, it would not be fixed. So just keep in mind, I'm not going to ruin this piece. I'm actually going to make it beautiful. If you want to know how to clean silver jewelry, sterling silver jewelry or silver plate, things like this, I'll try to put the link in the description, but there's also, I have a video on my YouTube channel on how to clean silver, so check that out, and with natural products, nothing harsh. I'm going to take Dixie Belle Slick Stick because I want my paint to stick to this, because I'm actually going to add a transfer to this one. This is one of the new Dixie Belle transfers. It's Magnolia Garden, and I'm going to be using just a portion of it. So basically, all I'm going to do is I'm going to use the slick stick with a smooth brush, and I've got this brush out here to show you. This is a natural bristle brush. This is going to give me brush strokes, and I don't want that. So I'm going to use a synthetic or a very smooth bristled synthetic type art brush because it's easier for me to control. You could also use your Dixie Belle synthetic brushes with this. Either way, I'm just going to paint this on, and I'm going to use very smooth strokes. You may have seen me do this before. Slick Stick, as you may know, is Dixie Belle's bonding primer for slick surfaces. But I also want to make sure my brush strokes are very smooth. Here's why. If I have lumpy, bumpy brush strokes here, on my finished project, I'm going to have lumpy, bumpy brush strokes. Your project is only as good as the foundation. I say that all the time. All right, so basically that's what that is. Do a little bit more here and let it, so it can be drying while we do the next step. I'm doing very thin coats as well. I also want to make sure my strokes are all the way to the edge so that I don't have what I call short strokes in there. And very thin coats all you need. And really and truly, you probably only need one coat of this. This has been pretty much scuffed up with the Scotch-Brite pad, so it has a little bit of tooth anyways. But there are directions on the jar that tell you for how long to let it sit. Honestly, I'll probably use a hair dryer on this and just go right over it as soon as it's dry. Because this is metal, it's going to dry really quick when I hit it with the heat. So that is no problem. I mean, it's taken no time at all. I got a little thick there, but that's all right. Basically, this is just to allow the paint to stick to this slick metal surface. You can also use this, and I'm going to show you in a minute, on glass, tile, laminate, anything that's glossy or shiny is what this is for. Please don't send me comments that I've ruined a piece of silver plate that's valuable. That's the one thing I would tell you is if you find that your piece of silver is a valuable piece of silver, don't paint it. If it's very sentimental to you, don't paint it. And I'm going to tell you, once you use this slick stick, it's not going to go anywhere. Now, if you have extra of this, like in a bowl or something, don't dump it down your drain. You can wash your brushes, but don't dump this down your drain unless you're fond of really expensive plumbing bills. Okay. All right. The next thing I want to show you how to paint with slick stick is glass. This is a little, I imagine it's a Dollar Tree vase, and I'm going to clean it with, it's been washed, but I'm going to clean it with alcohol. I want to get off any of the oils that may have gotten on there from my hands. And I'm just doing this with an alcohol wipe. You can just do it with alcohol and a cotton ball or something as well. I'm going to take a paper towel, kind of wipe off the residue. I'm going to be careful now not to touch the jar since I've gotten all the oils off of it. Same deal with Slick Stick. I mean, it's just that easy. Also, I want to make sure that I have smooth strokes because I don't want ridges in my paint when it's finally finished. So I'm going to go ahead and finish painting this, dry it and the picture, and I'll be back. So we're dry, and I decided to paint the bottom of this one, and I went ahead and painted the bottom of this one just to give it a more finished look. Also decided to paint the lip there just to give it a little more finished look. So what I've done is, first of all, I'm going to use these transfers from Dixie Belle Paint Company. This is the Magnolia Garden Transfer. It comes with an applicator stick, and it comes with 4 sheets. All right, so this one obviously is too big. I anticipate using this one on a sign or maybe even a piece of furniture. But I tell you, I do like the background here. So I'm kind of gonna mimic the background maybe a little bit. Let me just show you the ones that are in here. I'm probably thinking of using this one, maybe a leaf or two, the butterfly, maybe this one. And on the glass jar, I might use the cotton pods, but I'm not sure yet, or this one. We'll see. So what I really need is a background for these. If you'll notice, there's sort of a, not white, bright white, it's more of a creamy tone to it. So what I've done is, I did a kind of a little bit of a demo board here. This is just one of those little canvas boards you get at the Dollar Tree or Walmart or somewhere. But I wanted to just give myself some options. I didn't know if I wanted to go darker or if I wanted to go lighter. I'm leaning more towards this one now. So what I've done is I've taken several different colors. I've got Midnight Sky, Coffee Bean, Collard Greens, Hurricane Gray, Spanish Moss, Buttercream, Driftwood, and a little bit of fluff that's gotten mixed with the buttercream. So I'm going to go ahead and start on this, and I'm going to get my brush a little bit damp, and I'm going to do this hopefully so you can see it. I'm going to mix the buttercream and the fluff, although I do need some more fluff. Fluff and buttercream. I don't know, that's just kind of a cool color, I think. And I'm not especially worried about how it goes on. I'm not even especially worried if it's going to go on evenly. By the time I'm finished, it'll all kind of blend in. I might even do it in a circular motion. Who knows? I'm just wanting to cover up the Slick Stick at this point. Who knows? I might even change my design midway through here, depending on how it looks. If you mix the color that you like, make sure you mix enough for the whole project. Because I'm not too concerned about it being exactly even at this point, I'm not worried about it mixing exact amounts of each color. Fluff and buttercream. And I'm just kind of mixing them on the picture here. And here. You can see it's not 100% full coverage, and I'm okay with that because I'm going to put other colors on here as well, and the transfers. Again, though, I do want to make sure, and this is getting a little bit grooved. I see the grooves in there, and if you can see those or not. Sometimes they will self-level, but if they dry before they have a chance to self-level, not so much. That's why it's really good to use a damp brush. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stand up for this so I can finish doing it quickly. Notice when I put a little water on my brush, how much easier it's moving. It's not grabbing. That's a good tip to remember. When your paintbrush starts to grab, put a little bit of water on it. Now this is just a base coat that I'm doing, and honestly I am just playing with color right now. Doesn't look like it. The one thing you could do is do like I did and do a sample board to get your colors if you don't want to practice on your actual piece. Especially if your piece has lots of intricate designs, you definitely want to do a sample board first. For my glass vase here, is also dried. Notice I'm putting my hand in here so I don't get oils on it. And this time I think I'm going to go a little darker just for the fun of it. I'm going to take driftwood and buttercream and fluff, and there's really no, maybe even a little bit of this Spanish moss color. So driftwood, buttercream, fluff, and Spanish moss. And I'm going to get my brush just a slightly bit more damp than that. And this one, I kind of don't want it all mixed in really well. I kind of like the striations there, striations, however you say it. So buttercream, driftwood, fluff, Spanish moss, and I'm just kind of do this. I'm actually kind of liking the striations here. Gives it a little more interest, I think. And Spanish moss. Spanish moss is a really pretty, kind of almost a sagey green, almost, when it dries. It's got some brown undertones. But look at the cool variations you can get with that. Not even really paying attention to how much I put on the brush to get that. It's just whatever comes out. It's kind of the fun of doing this. You never know what it's going to come out like. And you know what? I'm kind of going back. I may go back and do this on the picture. Now this is just a background for our transfers, really, is all we're doing. Now you do want to make sure if you have any places where you've missed from the covering up the slick stick, which is bright white, you want to make sure you cover that up. I'm really liking that, y'all. That is really kind of cool. And on the bottom, I'm not going to worry about that too much right now. I'll go back and fix that later. But that's really cool. I liked that so much that I'm going to do the same thing on here. So I've dried this with the hairdryer. And actually I'm going to wash my brush out, because if you're not careful, you can actually make mud. Your colors will mix too much till they're not really striations anymore. They're actually kind of muddy. So let's see what happens now. Driftwood, oops, fluff, buttercream. There we go. And I'm okay with it being dark in some places and lighter in the other. One thing I'm doing too is I'm not really putting everything on one spot of the brush. I'm kind of putting it all over. So it does create those striations. Now if you start mixing too much on the board, it's all going to come out one kind of mixed together color, which may not be what you're going for. If you want the striations, don't over brush it or you'll lose that. This actually could begin to look a little bit like pottery. And I'm just using 4 colors here, but you could add more if you like. As a matter of fact, I may go back with some of the darker colors afterwards to add a little more interest. You want to resist the urge to go back and forth though, because that's kind of the beauty of the striations, is you're only going across it once or twice. Now I'm not even putting the paint on the same spot on my brush every time, although I probably should to get a more consistent look, but I'm okay with this. Now if you like a solid color, by all means, please do a solid color. I'm just trying to give some different options here because it's a lot of fun to do that. And this is a really quick way to make over something that was probably destined for the dump. Oh look, I accidentally got some of the dark gray in there, which I'm kind of liking every now and then. But these are some of the tones that are in the transfers to give it a little bit of interest. Sometimes if you add a dark value, it actually pulls it all together. Let's give it a look here. And that's the Hurricane Gray. I'm just kind of going to go, and I'm not going to do it all over. I might not even do it in a, see, too much. Isn't that cool though how you can fix it? Okay, so our pieces are dry. I hit them with the hair dryer. I fixed a few spots I didn't like, and I think they look a little bit like pottery, and I think that's pretty cool, but we're gonna make them even more spectacular. So what I like to do is take our burnishing pad, give this a little bit of a burnish. Be careful because normally I let this sit overnight, but I don't have that kind of time right now before I apply transfers, but I'm just kind of burnishing down the paint to make it a little smoother. You can do this on furniture as well. And I'm not rubbing very hard at all, but this is our burnishing pad that Dixie Belle has. And it makes it a lot smoother. I'm not looking for perfectly smooth. You can also do this with brown paper or a very fine grit sandpaper, but this is just very convenient. All right. So I've cut apart my Magnolia Garden Transfer, and I've chosen some of these components here. Let's start with this one. It comes with this little applicator tool. And I'm actually going to cut it down a little bit more so I can see what I'm doing. So I can have more of an accurate placement. All right, I'm going to do it facing me. Which side do I want this on? Let's do it on this side. So if I have a little bit of a blemish here, I can always cover that up with the transfer. Now this is a very curved surface, so it's going to take a little bit of doing here. What you do is, there's a backing piece, you take that off. There we go. And you're left with this. Be careful. Stick this where you want it to go, because otherwise it's going to be in that one spot. I am going to take my burnishing pad here, maybe prop this up so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm doing it toward me so I can get proper placement. And I'm going to start in the center here and go down. And I'm going to actually give it a little bit of a snip here and here. I'm doing this because I have a contour, is that right? Contoured surface? A rounded surface. Kind of like in sewing when you do gathers and things like that. Just to get it so it will go where I want it to. All right, I'm going to start rubbing right here. And to do these, it's really simple. I'm also being careful not to scoot it around too much because I don't want to scrape the paint off the other side because it has not cured yet. Remember, Dixie Belle paint takes 30 days to cure, 21 to 30 days to cure, which means that's how long it takes all the water to evaporate out of the water-based paint. Now, because this is metal, you can get really, what I call get mean with it, get rough with it. Put a lot of pressure. I'm putting a fairly amount of pressure. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you may not be too. It starts to go a little cloudy here. That means it's already adhering. Make sure I don't scratch the paint. I mean, every so often I'm going to kind of pick it up here just to see if it's not stuck down. You need to rub it a little bit harder. This way maybe you can see what I'm doing a little better. It's starting to see how it's going cloudy here. It's starting to stick. It's releasing from this top paper. Transfers are just a really cool way to add a hand-painted look to your pieces, especially if you're not a hand painter. See, it's already starting to stick. So I'm going to continue forward. And sometimes once it starts, you know, it kind of just keeps on going. Check it every now and then to see if it's sticking. And see how these little cuts, these little relief cuts are helping it to go in the curved areas. Now here I'm kind of just going to go with the curve of the picture. And see again how the little relief areas are helping it to curve where I want it to. To do from the center outward. You don't want to start on the inside, especially if you got these curves, because you won't be able to get it exactly where you want it. If you start from the center and move your way out, the little relief cuts really help you. A little bit more here. Isn't that pretty? Now, are there some little bubbles right here? Yes, there are. But that's okay. That's where it contoured. And you really, it's almost hidden. Oops, right here. So what I do is I take my burnishing pad and but isn't that pretty? And I'm kind of just burnishing it to make sure it's down really well. Around all these edges. And I'm going to start in the middle again because it is contoured. Make sure all these areas are down really well. But there we have it. That's pretty. This is also where I can come and fix anything that I missed. Open here. So I'm really liking the way that turned out. Might put a little bit of paint here just to kind of smooth it out. But you can go back and fix any areas that you want. This dries a little bit overnight. I will add a satin clear coat to it to protect the transfer. Dixie Belle does not recommend putting gator hide over their transfers just because they have been known to lift using the gator hide for whatever reason. This satin clear coat or the flat clear coat, either way, doesn't do that. I'm going to go ahead and use the satin clear coat because it's my favorite one, but you could very well, if you wanted to keep this to look like pottery, you could actually use the flat clear coat as well. And I'll probably do 2 coats once it's dry, and then I'll show you the finished product. Do the same thing for the little glass jar we did. I'm going to do it on this brighter part, and I'm going to use, let's see, I'm also going to burnish this down real quick so it's a little smoother. I think I'm going to use this one because it's smaller. Again, I'm going to cut it down a little bit. And I'm going to turn it toward me real quick so I can see placement. Again, we take off the backing paper. Make sure it's where we want it because you have a second chance here. I'm going to do it like this. Now again, this one you want to start in the center. I've also got to make some little relief cuts here. Just wherever you think you're going to need a relief cut to make it go around the curve of your project. It really helps. You saw on the other one. I'll do a couple right here. Okay. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to press it down with my fingers first. And again, the relief cuts are helping me go around the curves. Now what I also noticed is some transfers do what they call haloing around the transfer once it's applied. It's like a little clear band around it. With this particular paint finish, it doesn't seem to be that big of an issue. You see how my relief cuts are helping me again? So I'm going to start in the center again. Oops. Now glass is strong, but you want to be, a little more careful that you don't bust it. The metal was really easy because I could get rough with it. I can still get somewhat rough with the glass, but maybe not as much as the metal. Now when it gets to this little part right here, I'm going to be a little careful because I'm all the way to the edge. I probably should have left a little more of the front paper on. And this one's already starting to come up, see? Or should I say stick down? Now, some people are okay doing this over a clear coat. I prefer to do this on just paint. I prefer to do it before I have applied a clear coat. I think it works better, not over clear coat. I feel like I get better adhesion this way. And those relief cuts are my friends. See how easily that went down there? If I hadn't made the cuts, that wouldn't have been so great. Would have made a lump and a bump and a bubble. Not what I was looking for, but the relief cuts make it great to get around all these curves. And I'm taking my time with this, and I recommend you do the same. If you want a really good finished product, take your time with it to make sure it's going where you want it and it's sticking down with no bubbles or bumps or whatever. That's another thing. When you burnish your paint beforehand, it really helps this process because you may have gotten rid of some of the lumps that might have been in your paint, brush strokes and whatnot. Now, if you get too close like this and you've got an extra piece of these papers here, this is where you want to go ahead and put that over there, and that way you don't have to worry about scratching your paper. I mean scratching your paint. Because I cut it a little too close, this lets me not worry about messing my paint job up. Just like that. Same thing here, I'm going to do this. Yep, there we go. And when you pull it up very gently just to make sure that all the pieces are down good. Look, right there it wasn't down good, so we're gonna there we go. Isn't that just the prettiest little thing? All right, again, I'm going to use my burnishing pad to burnish this down to make sure I got all of the spots. Make sure I've gotten it down good, really around the edges, which is the most important part, really, around the edges. You don't want it to be pulling up, especially if you're going to clear coat it. So that is just how easy it is to apply Dixie Belle transfers to a really bad shape old silver plate pitcher and a really inexpensive Dollar Tree vase or thrift store vase or yard sale vase, and it just gives them something, a little more life than they would have had if they had stayed as they were. Here Enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up, and please share it with your friends if they would like to know how to do this technique as well. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please consider doing so. Have a great week. Bye.